She spun back into his arms right as the second chorus hit. The same song we slow danced to at our wedding. Except now she was looking up at him. That same stupid half-smile on her lips she used to save just for me. I wasn't standing far. Maybe 10 feet away, clutching a plastic champagne flute with warm, flat bubbles that tasted like soap. But I swear, in that moment, I could have been invisible. I watched his hand land on the back of her dress. Not low enough to call it out. Just high enough to pretend it meant nothing. And her shoulders dipped in, like she welcomed the contact. I'd warned her already. 5 minutes before that dance, I pulled her aside, past the crowd, near the ice sculpture shaped like her company's logo. She was fixing her hair in her phone camera. I told her, calm as I could, if you dance with him again, don't expect me to be here when you return. She laughed. Not nervously. Not apologetically. No, she laughed. Loud enough that 2 interns looked over. Then she patted my cheek like I was the jealous boyfriend in a high school hallway. Ezra, seriously? He's just fun. You're being dramatic again. That was her favorite word lately, dramatic. You know what's not dramatic? Walking out without saying goodbye. That's what I did. I dropped the champagne into a half-eaten plate of shrimp skewers, walked out past the valet stand, and didn't look back once. No one stopped me. No one called after me. And my wife? No, Ren, she never noticed. Not until she got home and saw what was missing. And I don't just mean the car. By the time she realized I was gone, I was already halfway across town, parked outside a 24-hour diner that smelled like burnt toast and stale sugar. I didn't go in. I just sat in the car, headlights off, phone face down, heart thudding in that weird, hollow way like it's echoing inside a plastic cup. You know that feeling when your mind's too loud and your body's too quiet? That was me. I was just existing, processing, crumbling quietly. I had left the key fob on the kitchen counter, not just to make a statement, but because I didn't want her thinking I'd storm back in for anything. Not my hoodie, not my toothbrush, not even the old Polaroid on the fridge where she wrote, "Forever," in Sharpie. The call started at 10:42 p.m. First one just rang through. Then a second. A third, 5 minutes later. Then silence. For maybe half an hour. At 11:17 p.m., she tried texting. "Ezra, where are you?" I didn't reply. At 11:22 p.m., another one. "You're scaring me. Come home. Please." I almost texted back, just to say, "You laughed." That's all I wanted to send. Just that. 3 words. But I didn't. Instead, I kept picturing her in that green dress, twirling around in his arms while that cover band played our song. Her laughter still echoed in my ears, and I hated how familiar it sounded. Like the kind of laugh she used to give me when I'd spin her around in our living room at 2 a.m. with music coming from the TV speakers. It wasn't just a dance. People always say it was just a dance to dismiss the meaning behind it. But they weren't there. They didn't see how her body leaned into his, how her fingers lingered on the collar of his shirt. They didn't see the way his smile told a story only she was allowed to hear. It was intimacy, and I didn't need to read a text thread or catch them in a hotel to feel that betrayal. At 11:56 p.m., the last call came in. I watched the screen light up. Her contact photo, the one from 2 years ago, at the cabin, when she had freckles from too much sun and no makeup and smiled like she had the whole world. I watched it ring until it stopped. Then I turned my phone off. What she didn't know, not yet, was that I hadn't just walked out of the party. I'd walked out of our shared lease. The second I left that venue, I sent a scheduled email to my landlord, formally requesting to have my name removed and my deposit transferred to her. It was all legal, all prepared. I'd been sitting on it for weeks. Something in my gut had warned me long before tonight. There were no threats, no yelling, no "I'm done" moment, just silence, and a vacuum where I used to be. She thought I was bluffing, but while she danced, I vanished, and she had no idea what was coming next. She didn't notice I had disappeared until the lights came on. That's the part that still bothers me. She didn't look for me. She didn't glance around mid-song. She didn't stop laughing with him long enough to realize the seat next to hers was empty. I left during their second dance, maybe third. I honestly lost count, and not once did she stop spinning to wonder where her husband went. My phone buzzed exactly 12 minutes after I started the engine. I didn't answer. I watched the screen flash her name, Ren, and felt nothing. Just a pit in my stomach, the kind that doesn't settle no matter how deep you breathe. The longer I drove, the clearer everything became. The road was quiet. My hands were steady. My brain, for once, wasn't spiraling. All I could think about was how she laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not embarrassed, but full-on, joyful, open-mouthed laughter, the kind you let out when someone says something ridiculous. She didn't believe me. Worse, she didn't take me seriously. I had warned her, calmly and clearly. If you dance with him again, don't expect me to be here when you return. And she looked me dead in the eyes, smiled, and walked right back to him. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell or make a scene. That would have made it about pride, about control. But this wasn't that. This was grief in motion. A quiet, calm, ice-cold withdrawal. I just left. No one saw. No one stopped me. I took the long way home. Windows cracked, wind in my face, trying to feel something. When I finally got back to the apartment, I didn't even turn on the lights. I walked through the hall, past the framed photos of us pretending we were happy in places we barely remember. I packed fast, a single duffel bag, toothbrush, charger, socks, laptop, birth certificate, the basics. Nothing sentimental. I didn't even take the jacket she bought me last Christmas. That thing always felt like armor I didn't earn anyway. Then I did something she wouldn't expect. I placed my wedding ring on her pillow, face up, the way she always laid her phone when she was hiding something. Then I took a plain white sheet of paper and wrote 4 words in Sharpie. You laughed. I left. No signature. No goodbye. I left it on the kitchen table next to the empty wine bottle she never put away. By the time she got home, probably giggling with her shoes in one hand and text from Beck in the other, I was gone. I turned off my phone. I had already transferred my half of the rent for the final month. Already moved some cash into a separate bank account. Already booked a temporary rental under a different zip code. I didn't plan this tonight, but something deep down told me it might come to this eventually. She never thought I would leave. That's the truth. She thought I'd sulk, maybe sleep on the couch, then crawl back to the table the next morning like I always did. She thought she could laugh at me, not with me, at me, and I'd still be waiting by the door, keys in hand, heart in pieces. But this time, I meant it. And the real unraveling? That hadn't even begun yet. Ren didn't call again until 7:41 the next morning. By then, I'd been awake for hours, sitting in a tiny furnished studio with a view of a cracked parking lot and an old neon laundromat sign that buzzed like a broken fly zapper. I hadn't slept. I didn't even try. My body was too wired, too cold, too full of everything I didn't know how to name. There's this weird stillness that comes after walking away from someone you love. It's not peace. It's shock, like your heart hasn't caught up with what you've just done. She called once, then again. I let it ring. Then I opened the voice memo app, hit record, and saved the sound of her ringtone like it was evidence. That sound. It used to mean she was checking in, asking if I wanted something from the store, reminding me to take my vitamins. Now it sounded like a guilt alarm, and I wasn't ready to disable it yet. Around 8:10, she sent the first message that almost got to me. Did you sleep at Noah's? Just text me, please. Noah is my brother. I knew she'd assume I'd gone there. She liked to think I was predictable, soft, harmless. She thought I always needed someone to help me process. But I hadn't spoken to Noah in 3 weeks. Not since the thing with the phone bill. Not since he warned me that Ren was starting to act like someone who wanted out, but didn't want to admit it yet. She never liked Noah. Said he was paranoid. Said he didn't respect her boundaries. In hindsight, I think he just saw her clearly before I did. I didn't respond to her text, but I stared at the 3 dots for 10 full seconds when they popped up again. She was typing. Then she stopped. Then started again. Then nothing. An hour passed. I took a shower that felt like standing under regret. Dressed in the same jeans from last night. I'd packed so quickly I hadn't grabbed anything fresh. The room smelled like dust and someone else's cheap cologne. I didn't mind. It didn't smell like her. At 9:34, another message buzzed in. Where are you? I'm serious. I came home, and you were just gone. This isn't okay, Ezra. I'm freaking out. I read that one twice. This isn't okay. That's what she wrote. Not I'm sorry. Not you were right. Just panic layered in entitlement. Like I owed her a breadcrumb trail after she laughed in my face in front of her lover. I imagined her walking into the apartment and seeing the ring on her pillow, the note on the table, the closet's half empty. I pictured the panic spreading across her expression like spilled wine on silk. But I bet she still didn't get it. Not yet. Because what she didn't know, not yet, was that this wasn't just a one-night vanishing act. I hadn't left in anger. I'd left in quiet calculation. while she danced with Beck and flirted with betrayal. I'd set something in motion that couldn't be undone with apologies or crocodile tears. The lease wasn't the only thing I had removed myself from. I was in the process of transferring full ownership of our shared car, the one in my name, to my name only. I'd already updated the online banking passwords. The joint credit card was frozen. My emergency savings had been rerouted to a private account 3 weeks ago. And the utilities? All under me. She'd get to make those phone calls this time. That wasn't revenge. That was survival. She thought this was a tantrum, that I was punishing her. But this was liberation. Quiet, deliberate, legal. And in just a few hours, she'd discover the first true consequence. A meeting on her work calendar she hadn't added, a conversation she never expected, and a face she thought she'd never see again. Because I wasn't the only one she'd underestimated. At exactly 2 p.m., Ren was sitting in her office chair, pretending to edit a sales deck while sipping oat milk coffee from her favorite silver tumbler, the one I got her on our 3rd anniversary. She probably still thought I was sulking somewhere, maybe crashing on a friend's couch, maybe drafting some dramatic message I'd eventually send her in a flurry of feelings and grammar mistakes. That was the version of me she thought I still was, emotional, reactive, always folding after a fight. But the man she laughed at wasn't the one who showed up in her calendar. She didn't see it at first. That's what the assistant later told me. Ren had her phone open, scrolling Instagram reels and texting someone whose name was saved as LMFAO Fire, while the Outlook pinged softly in the background. The notification came in as 2:15 p.m., brief compliance review, HR plus legal. Location, Glassroom B. Ren hated HR meetings. She once called them passive-aggressive therapy sessions with snacks. So she rolled her eyes, tapped the screen, gathered her notepad, and walked in without even checking who had called it. Inside were 3 people. Mia, the HR rep she always pretended to be friends with. A junior attorney from legal named Brooke, who wore square glasses and carried a laptop thicker than her torso. And across the glass table was Noah, my brother. I didn't give her a heads up. Why would I? That would have spoiled the reveal. She froze. That's the first thing Noah told me when he called afterward. Ren's heels didn't even fully cross the threshold before her body locked up. The fake confidence drained from her face like a cracked champagne bottle. She looked from Mia to Noah like it had to be a joke, like she was on a prank show. Have a seat, Noah said simply, opening a file. What is this? She asked, clutching her notepad like it could shield her. It's a courtesy conversation, Brooke replied. Since you're named as a party on a shared corporate device that may be under internal investigation. Now, before you assume I hacked her or snooped through her work files, let me clarify. She gave me her login. Months ago, during a layover, she forgot her charger and asked me to send an urgent deck to her boss. I logged into her work laptop from mine, forwarded the file, and never logged out. She never changed the password. And she used that work email like a second personal account. Sloppy. Reckless. Familiar. What started as little glimpses, a few flirty back and forths with coworkers, inside jokes that felt too inside, calendar invites titled Brainstorm plus Wine, eventually led to attachments. Screenshots. Audio snippets from Teams calls. One video, grainy, dim, but unmistakable. Her, giggling. Beck's voice off screen. I never sent it to her job. That's not how I work. But I did give it to Noah, who just so happened to handle vendor compliance for companies like hers. And all Noah had to do was make a call, ask the right questions, and her inbox became a red flag on someone's dashboard. None of this was revenge. This was accountability. The adult version of saying, you don't get to step on me and still keep the crown. Ren didn't get fired. Not yet. But she left the meeting flushed, silent, trembling in her shoes. And I know her. She doesn't get rattled easily. She tried calling me again at 3:06 p.m. I watched the screen light up. Let it ring. She didn't leave a voicemail. She just sent one text. What did you do? I didn't reply. Instead, I turned my phone to silent, slid the window open, and listened to the wind for a moment. It smelled like something ending. Not burning. Not rotting. Just ending. But for her, it was only beginning. She knocked on the door 3 times like she had every right to. Not fast. Not loud. Just sharp. Deliberate, confident, the kind of knock you use when you're convinced you're still in control. But when I opened the door and she saw the room behind me, beige walls, suitcase in the corner, unfamiliar air. Her expression cracked for the first time. She looked smaller, like something about me not being in our apartment had distorted her sense of scale. She wore that same lipstick from the night of the gala, slightly smeared now, and her mascara had done that thing where it flakes onto her cheekbones after a long day. I couldn't tell if she'd been crying or just hadn't slept. She looked over my shoulder into the studio like she expected to see someone else. Maybe hoped to. "I didn't think you'd actually go here," she said. I didn't respond. I just stepped aside. She walked in, slow, her heels clicking against the ugly laminate floor like they didn't belong. She stood in the middle of the room, arms crossed tight over her chest, surveying the damage, or lack of it. There was nothing dramatic about where I'd landed. It wasn't revenge. It was exile. She turned to face me. "So this is what you want? To live like this? Alone?" I didn't flinch. "I warned you. You warned me about a dance, Ezra. You're seriously burning our entire life down because I danced at a party?" I didn't say anything, because I wasn't going to argue the definition of betrayal with the person who weaponized my forgiveness for years. This wasn't about one dance. It never was. It was about how she looked at him like I never existed. How she laughed in my face when I drew a boundary. How she knew it would hurt and did it anyway. She started pacing. "I didn't cheat on you, Ezra. You're twisting everything. You always do this. You overthink, spiral, assume the worst. You should have talked to me instead of ghosting me like a damn stranger." Now that was rich. "I didn't ghost you," I said quietly. "I just stopped trying to explain what you already knew." She stopped. Her hands were shaking now, gripping the edge of the desk I hadn't even used yet. "You embarrassed me at work. You used your brother to make me look unprofessional in front of HR. I don't even know what you told him." "You don't need to know," I said, and my voice surprised even me with how steady it was. "Because it wasn't about you looking bad. It was about someone finally seeing what I've been living with. The manipulation, the games, the smirks when I asked you simple questions, the way you stopped choosing me in small, quiet ways until I didn't recognize myself in the mirror anymore." She looked at me like I'd spoken in another language. And then she folded. Not dramatically, not like in the movies, but in this tired, slumped, defeated way, like someone finally realized the performance wasn't selling anymore. She sat on the bed, my bed now, and whispered, "I didn't think you'd ever leave. You always come back. Even when I pushed too hard, you always came back." I stood across from her, arms folded, the weight of every night I laid awake wondering how I'd become the backup plan pressing against my ribs. "I used to," I said, "because I thought we could fix it. But you laughed, Ren. You laughed in front of everyone. You told the world I didn't matter. So I finally believed you." She covered her face with both hands and didn't say another word. Just sat there, quietly crying, like the moment she realized I wasn't bluffing had finally arrived. She stayed for 13 minutes. Then she left without another word. I didn't watch her go, but I knew she'd be back. Because people like her, they don't give up the stage until the lights shut off completely. And I had just started pulling the plug. I thought silence would push her away. I was wrong. It pulled her in like gravity. The more I ignored her messages, the louder she became, not in volume, but in intensity. First came the guilt texts. "I miss you. I didn't mean it like that. You know I love you, right?" I didn't respond. Then came the accusations. "You're being immature. Running away doesn't make you right. This isn't how adults fix things." But we both knew that last one was a bluff. Adults don't fix things by laughing during betrayal and expecting applause. Then came the deliveries. One morning, I opened my temporary door to find a brown paper bag with 3 things inside. My favorite sandwich from the cafe near our apartment, a sticky note that said, "Lunch, like old times," and a tiny wooden pin I gave her years ago on a rainy Sunday in Vermont, the one shaped like a fox she kept in her makeup drawer. She used to say it reminded her of how I watched the world quietly before making decisions. I stared at it for a long time before I tossed the bag in the trash. I didn't eat the sandwich. She still thought she could buy her way back into my silence. But then, her energy changed. She started calling people. Not just Noah, who blocked her after she left 2 voicemails crying. Then one yelling, but others. My coworker Mason messaged me. "Dude, your wife called the store. Said it was urgent. Everything cool?" She called my aunt, my gym, even my high school friend Caleb, who hadn't seen me in 6 years. She was searching now, not for me, for an angle, a thread she could tug to make me unravel. The moment that confirmed it for me wasn't a message or a call. It was the look in her eyes when I ran into her, unplanned, at the pharmacy near the studio. She was dressed up like she wanted someone to see her, red coat, lashes done, not a single hair out of place. I was in sweats, earbuds in, grabbing mouthwash. She looked at me like she hadn't seen me in years. Ezra, she said like she was out of breath. I pulled out one earbud. Ren. She blinked like my calmness insulted her. Are we really doing this? Pretending we're strangers now? I wanted to laugh, but I didn't. She stepped closer. Look, I made mistakes, but you're acting like I cheated on you in broad daylight. I didn't. You did something worse, I said. You turned me into a joke. Her face twitched. For a second, I thought she might cry, but she didn't. She straightened her spine, tilted her chin, and said, maybe if you hadn't been so boring for so long, I wouldn't have needed to find something fun once in a while. There it was. The mask finally slipped. I nodded, not out of agreement, but because that sentence, that cold, flippant, cutting sentence, gave me the final proof I needed that leaving wasn't just the right move. It was overdue. Thank you, I said, and walked past her like she was a stranger asking for spare change. She called after me once. I didn't turn back. I heard her slam her car door as I drove away. Later that night, she posted something cryptic on her story. Just a black screen with white text that read, "Some people can't handle a strong woman. That's on them." It got 37 likes, 5 heart emojis. But the next day, her job sent her home early. And the letter she found on her desk, that wasn't from HR. That was from me. The last time I saw Ren, she wasn't angry. She wasn't smug. She wasn't even sad. She was quiet. We met in a lawyer's office. Neutral ground, neutral faces, fluorescent lights humming over polite paperwork. She wore black, like she was attending a funeral, but I could tell it wasn't for me. It was for the version of her that used to control the room and knew it. There were no tears. Not this time. No dramatic speeches, no last-minute confessions. She signed each page like she had rehearsed it, eyes flicking over the lines, but not really reading. When we reached the end, she finally looked up at me. "I didn't think you'd go through with it," she whispered. "I know," I said. "That's why I had to." She blinked, nodded once, and stood up. And that was it. No handshake. No goodbye. Just a quiet exhale as the door shut behind her. When I walked outside, it felt clean. Cold, but clean. Like someone had aired out a space that had been stale for years. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It hadn't been for a while. I didn't care who Beck was, what happened after the dance, or whether she ever told her side of the story. I wasn't trying to win. I was just done bleeding in battles she kept starting and never showing up to finish. In the weeks that followed, I didn't reinvent myself. No glow-up, no dramatic moves, no cryptic social media captions. I stayed quiet. I healed slow. I got a dog from a rescue. Her name's Maple. She doesn't talk back, doesn't play games, and every time I walk in the door, she acts like I hung the moon. I moved into a small townhouse outside the city. It's not big, but it's mine. The sunlight hits just right in the mornings. I make coffee in silence, write in a journal I use to mock, and sometimes, on rare nights, I put on that same song from the party and slow dance with no one. Not out of sadness, out of peace. Because the truth is, she was right about one thing. I was too sensitive. Sensitive enough to notice when love had left the building. Sensitive enough to know that laughter, when aimed at the person holding your heart, isn't humor. It's cruelty with a smile. But now, I'm also strong enough to walk away from it. And that's the ending I never saw coming. Not a dramatic explosion. Not a revenge fantasy. Just quiet, steady freedom. The kind that doesn't need to be announced to be real.